The topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Let's listen as Lorraine Lapointe, coach, therapist, educator, speaker, and founder of Head Heart Synergy, brings together another enlightened guest to inspire and motivate us to move forward, achieve our dreams and desires, so that we experience midlife awakening.
And I'm your host, Lorraine Lapointe. Today we'll enjoy another candid conversation that reveals how to bring back a sense of balance and how to find forward focus. Today, take just a few moments to join us as we explore the possibilities and the perspectives that provide us with greater inner peace, power, passion, and purpose. Because that's what I call living at the edge of fulfillment in a midlife awakening.
Well, hello and welcome wherever you are on this big blue marble in space. You know, I wonder, is this the time that you're going to start getting back into the dating world and maybe you're not sure where to begin? Or maybe you're just a little bit rusty about how things are done these days and you really want more deep, genuine, connected conversations. You know, and what about that online dating thing? I mean, is that for you? Some of us, interacting with others all day or day to day is not really a problem. But when it comes to talking to someone that you find really attractive, you know, that can become a whole other story. And we already know there's a natural pull for us to connect with other human beings, you know, and we know we have a need to belong. And we know that because when we're with friends and family, it can be our juice. It can light us up. It can put a big smile on our face. However, being alone is often painful for many of us. And we want that other special person in our life. And today's guest is going to help us understand more about how to overcome that feeling when we're attracted to somebody by debunking the myths of dating over 40. And there are a lot of them. So today, listeners and watchers of this show, we encourage you to participate. Shape this episode into something that really speaks to your heart, because we want to hear your comments and questions. This is a big area, this debunking the myths of dating over 40. But every time you hear a comment, whether you're live here with us now or listening to a podcast recording, one of the great things that happens on this show, The Edge of Fulfillment, is that my company, Head Heart Synergy, has an opportunity to give to a project through b1g1.com, so that as life improves for you with comments and questions and you get answers, then it also gets better for someone else in the world, because for every interaction on this show or every time it's downloaded, we provide 1 day of access to clean water wherever it's needed most in the world. So this means that when you comment or you ask a question or you listen to the podcast, that you help someone in the world to live better. And I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for helping me to help others. And oh, by the way, for those I haven't met yet, I'm Lorraine Lapointe, host of Edge of Fulfillment. And this episode is near and dear to my heart because starting at age 52, I looked across the table at my long-term partner at that point, and I said to him, "Why are we doing this?" Meaning our relationship. And his answer was, "I don't know." And that was it. That was the end of that 18-year relationship. And so I was dating again at the age of 52, and I struggled with all of those questions about online dating and about how things were done and what to say and how to say it. And I'm excited to tell you that it did work out well. I've now been with my current partner for the last 7 years, and so you can find love after the age of 40. You know, so and I believe that when we trust ourselves, Trust is the basis of our important relationships. And trust is the thing that brings us harmony, light, and joy into our lives. And so that's why I work with many amazing women who, when they reach their 40s, they start to experience life changes. And they begin to feel afraid of others that are taking advantage of them, maybe because they were like way too nice. And that can be a problem when you're dating. Often at some point you feel like you've given up, or you've given in, or you've gone along for so long that you might hardly recognize who you are anymore. And for the women that I support, they're absolutely horrified when words from their mother or their grandmother come flying out of their mouth. And they realize that they've inherited thoughts and perspectives about who they should be or who they show up as. And so, sometimes we don't really know who we are. We're frustrated, we feel alone and exhausted, and it's not even your fault or her fault. These compassionate, service-minded women really want to free themselves from any toxic influence from past generations or from their inner self-sabotage. They want to heal what's past, clean out, the genetic gunk that drives uncomfortable attitudes and behavior. And they want to experience more self-trust so that they can feel that harmonious connection that satisfies their soul. So it's my mission to help tame and transform that toxic inner self-talk that makes people give up too much, for too many, for too long. And, a lot of people say, oh, I've tried it all. I've tried all kinds of things to make connections. And they thought they'd have better answers by now. However, after all the years of self-sacrifice and not knowing who you are, there's still that craving desire for connection with others, healthier relationships, and the opportunity to freely build a life that you love. And if you can relate to that, go ahead and pop a yes in the chat. And our guest today is all about helping debunk the myths of dating after 40. And so I'm excited to introduce her. But as my gift at the end of the show for you being here, I'll post a link to a quiz so you can tell what the number one focus that would improve your life satisfaction score. So listen and watch for that. And I know our guest has a great gift for you as well. And we all love to win prizes. So for many of you, you know that each week we run a contest here. And the contest is to take note of 5 special words that you'll hear, and we sprinkle them throughout the show. So keep track of them and then add them into the chat at the end of the show when I ask for that. Or you can email them to me with the subject contest, and you'll be eligible to win the prize. And the prize this week is sponsored by our guest, and it's a fabulous, good morning, John. It's a fabulous private one-on-one session to clarify the biggest thing that holds you back from successful dating. So just keep track of those 5 special words. And you've already heard the first word today. So the first word is dating. And so to give you a little time to do that, and to remember to invite your family and friends to join us, we're going to take a little break. Stay with us as you are listening to The Edge of Fulfillment on W4WN. That's the Women for Women Network Radio and Talk for TV. And we will be right back.
Did you know video is the future on content? There are 3 good reasons why video is the future of content. Number 1, videos are often more engaging than simple pictures or music alone. Number 2, it's much easier to tell your story through video. Number 3, because we love to watch video, they go viral much faster. Hey, notice you're still watching right now. See how well it works. Next time we can play your video here instead. Ask me how. Shine online on Talk 4 TV and W4WN Radio.
Hey, are you looking for a brighter future? Wishing for greater calm, clarity, and confidence? What if you knew an inside job was the answer? Your mission: stop the inner burn.
Gain mental fitness so you get more out of life. Imagine in about 15 minutes a day for just 6 weeks. Come on, we'll show you how. Don't miss it. Just go to www.lorraine.gives/M-Fitness and join us right now.
So welcome back. Let's do a quick recap. This week's contest is to win a private session with Barbara, our guest, to help you clarify what's holding you back from successful dating. And we've already heard one of the 5 special words that you'll need to put in the comments at the end of the show to be eligible for the draw for this week's prize. So don't add them yet. But the first word to jot down is the word dating. And now you'll hear 4 other words sprinkled throughout the show so that as we continue here. And I'm really stoked for you to meet Barbara Katz. Barbara specializes in interpersonal communication. She's a trained coactive coach. And she has been awarded the practitioner certification from NLP Canada. So she knows what she's doing. She's a professional facilitator. She's dedicated to helping people gain confidence and have better connections with others in their lives. And who does not want that? So let's bring her out. Thanks for being with us today, Barbara.
Hi, Lorraine. Thank you so much for having me here. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's so good to see you. And I understand that being a dating expert is only one part of your story behind your success. So our audience would love to get to know more about you and your story. Where would you like to begin?
Oh, well, thank you. So I've been an entrepreneur for over 30 years, long journey. So in a previous life to what I was doing now, I actually used to have a special event company, and I worked with a lot of corporate clients. And I'd often hear from people, "You're so easy to talk to, and it's just so easy to have a great conversation with you. How do you do that?" And I thought, I don't know. I don't know how I do that. And simultaneous to that, I've always been a proponent of self-growth. So back in 2000, there was this fad thing that was starting called coaching. And I thought, I wonder what that's all about. And I took a course, a first course in a series of courses just for my own personal growth. And I thought, I love this. This is awesome. I'm learning so much about myself. I'll just take the next one. And how many months later, I've taken all of them for my own personal growth. And it just, expanded me beyond belief. And I decided, you know what, I'm really enjoying this. And I want to marry that with people always saying to me, how do you communicate with such clarity and with grace? And I thought, you know what, I want to help business professionals to do that more. So I started doing coaching with mostly people in the tech and the finance industry that were just absolutely brilliant at what they did. However, as far as, for them to be able to move up the corporate ladder, what was holding them back was their communication skills. So I worked with the different professionals on the communication side, loved it, and I teamed up with a colleague, and we started doing different types of workshops. Just so happens, we did a workshop for a singles group. Singles over 40. And it was about how to have a great conversation. And it was amazing. We started talking about body language, and it was a male colleague. We did a couple of demos around, understanding if someone's flirting with you. And it just went crazy. We didn't expect for it to take off. That was like a tiny little section about the whole communication actual workshop. And everything stopped from there. It was talked about online dating, and the organizer came up to us afterwards. They said, we need to have you back. We want a whole workshop on flirting and body language and online dating. And, we were both shocked. And we thought, all right, that's interesting. That's not really what we do, but all right, let's go. Let's go with it. Right. So we infused our own philosophy in the world about how to communicate better. And so we, in a couple of weeks, we came back to the same group. We had, I think it was 125 people show up for a workshop called, Excuse Me, Are You Flirting With Me? It was fun. It was playful. It gave permission to people to just be their genuine, authentic self, and all the things that go on in their head about what they thought dating was about and who they had to be and the masks they were wearing. We just said, check that at the door. You're just here in a container. We're putting you to the experimentation bubble, and everybody gave each other permission to just be themselves and have real conversations. And I got to tell you, we worked with that group for 4 years. And every time we ran a workshop on different subjects as far as dating, we had 100 people, 100 people, 100 people. People would come back. I also did another fun game called Mythbusters. And it was all about how to understand the opposite sex's perspective. And it was all about just being your genuine self.
Well, and how amazing, that you just stumbled into this, but you've actually hit on an area that can cause a great deal of discomfort for people. And especially those over 40 who are, like, I will say, new to the dating scene, new back again after perhaps a long relationship. And so can you tell us a little bit more about the whole concept of flirting? Because I think sometimes people aren't even sure what that exactly is. So
absolutely. And it scares people. It makes them so uncomfortable. It's, regardless of how old you are, all of a sudden, every single insecurity you ever had in junior high or high school just comes flooding back. You might be an extremely successful professional and, are able to give presentations, no problem. And then you get into this new situation and you're like back in high school, right? Okay. So the first thing that I say about flirting is, let's put everything you thought it was aside and let's look at it from a new mindset. So think about flirting as in letting somebody know that you're open to being approached. That's it. Let's take all that pressure off yourself, right? Well,
I think people think that they have to be on in a show. They have to perform when they flirt with others. So I love that you've tweaked that to just be open to be approached for a conversation. That feels so much better. So go on.
Absolutely. I mean, we put so much pressure on ourselves, especially in this respect, and we have to be perfect and we have to look perfect. We have to say the perfect thing. Breathe. Right? Give yourself a break. You're in a state of anxiety. The other people are probably in a state of anxiety, right? You want to remember that flirting is natural. Like our grandparents did it. If they hadn't done it, we literally would not be here today, right? It is a natural thing. When you are more relaxed about it, your natural body language cues just come out, right? And it's about being more comfortable in your own skin to have more genuine, connected conversations and interactions with people.
And can I say that good morning, Angeline, good to see you today. And good morning, John, from earlier. And can I say that body language is actually one of our 5 special words? So we've actually heard a couple of extra of those special words, but body language, dating was our first, body language is our second. And I understand that you have expertise in that area.
Well, I do. I do. That's actually one of the workshops that I do. And it's about understanding body language cues. You know, men and women both give off different types of body language when they're interested in someone. And as I said, these come very naturally if you let them. And the interesting thing about body language is it's twofold. The first piece is watching what someone else is doing. So you're looking for body language cues. And the second piece is being aware about what you're doing. So for instance, if you're flirting with somebody, one of the things that happens is called preening. So both men and women do it. You know, they might be playing a little bit with their hair. So ladies, you might be doing this and not even thinking about it. You're like, oh, I can't believe we're doing that, right? You might be playing with your jewelry. You might be standing in a bit more of a S position.
So I'm seeing like your signal's coming through a little bit broken, but I'm seeing you kind of showing a little more of your neck, leaning in a little. Is that what we're talking about?
Absolutely. I mean, when you think about being vulnerable, our neck is one of the most very vulnerable places on our body. That's where our jugular vein is, right? So if you see someone that's kind of exposing their neck, they're feeling vulnerable and comfortable with you. You know, they might be covering it, in which case they're feeling vulnerable, or they might be exposing it, which means they're feeling more comfortable with you.
Right. And I would imagine that in the animal world, that you know, animals only expose their neck, you know, to something that's not going to bite them.
Exactly.
You know, yeah. So I mean, this is fascinating, and I'm getting really great audio from our conversation. Unfortunately, the video seems to have frozen, so I don't know if on your end you're able to shut down your video and then reestablish it again, Barb. But I love our conversation, and I want to continue to talk to you, even if we only get an audio, if that's all right. Oh, it looks like we lost Barb completely. But I love what she's saying about how we do flirt, how we do use our body language to speak to others. Without it goes beyond words. So one of the things that I know that from our conversations earlier is that Barb has deep expertise about these concepts about body language and online dating. And I also know that she loves oracle cards. So while she's getting her camera sorted out and her audio sorted out, I'm going to do what we do on all of our shows, or almost all of our shows. I'm going to pull an oracle card. So I'm going to shuffle. And when spirit moves me or a card jumps out of the deck, then I will read you what our card is for today. And so as there goes one. All right. The card today that jumped out of the deck is called Willing Release. I don't know if you can see that. That's a beautiful butterfly on daffodils. It's called Willing Release. And the willing release says, some days you have to let go of your struggle in order to find the answer. And you have to focus on other things for a while. So maybe that applies to dating as well. You do your part by setting an intention and then taking necessary action. But you must surrender the form, the timing, and the how in order for things to work well. You may find that your intense desire for something translates into a feeling of attachment and entitlement. And attachment and entitlement do not go well when you're meeting someone new for the first time. And so I think that's probably where the flirting comes in. Can you immerse yourself in just the experience and allow the plan to unfold as it will on your behalf without interference? Can you be open to receiving, even if the package that you see is not what you thought you wanted? Oh, that I think has some really serious ramifications for dating. So let's talk some more about that. The advice from the card, the oracle card, is let go and just see what transpires. Surrendering will truly serve your highest good. So one of the things that we can talk about with Barb when she gets back in is this belief about, having a list or criteria of what you're looking for in another. And I can tell you a little bit more about my story. So I was on the dating scene again when I was 52, and I very carefully stepped into the online dating world. It feels in some ways like you're very exposed when you put yourself out there for online dating. And in some ways you are. But a lot of these online dating packages ask you to set a criteria, like an age limit. They ask you to set, some other criteria so that they can create these matches. And creating the matches is not, well, I mean, in theory, it's going to work, but it's not always what nature or the universe has in mind. And I'm going to indulge, if you'll indulge me, I'll indulge you by telling you the story of how I met John. So I received a message from the app, the online dating, and it happened to be Plenty of Fish, which I know has people have different opinions about. But it was an invitation to an event, and I had no intention of going to that event, especially because it was totally out of my area. It was totally out of my, it was a long way away and totally out of the area that I wanted to focus on. But I read the profile for the person who sent it. And what caught my eye was this magnificent little paragraph about only communicating in the online dating app itself. And I had just had an experience where I had had a conversation for about 3 weeks with someone who didn't exist. I can go into that a little bit in a moment. But I read the profile of this person who had sent this invitation and found this paragraph about only communicating on the app. And so I simply responded and I said, I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to steal your paragraph. And that's how I met John. And we just started in a very authentic way, communicating back and forth and back and forth. And that was the start of it all. So although we've talked a little bit about flirting, the flirting came next. It was the connection first and then the flirting. So you're probably curious, and go ahead and say curious if you put that word in the chat, and we'll make that one of our special words. Probably curious about how you can connect with someone online who doesn't exist. Well, you have to watch carefully and use your intuition, because there are a number of people that are out there who will create a false profile, and then what they're trying to do is entice you into a relationship by figuring out how, what you like and what you don't like and who you are. And I mean, the bottom line is they're scam artists and they're looking for money. But go with your intuitive sense And don't believe for a second if something real shows up at your door. For me, it was a lovely bouquet of flowers. Um, and the lovely bouquet of flowers, see, something was real. And so, yes, exactly, Rachel, it's called catfishing. So something real showed up, and because the flowers were real, the assumption in your mind is that the person is real. And that's not necessarily true, because what followed hot on the heels of that, of course, was a request for money. And don't ever send somebody that you've met online money. The other piece of it, of course, is if you are going to meet somebody online, you make sure that you meet them in a public place and somewhere where you're feeling safe. And I know that Barb talks a lot about flirting and body language, and flirting is the bottom line for me is basically play, being playful and enjoying the company of someone else without any expectation. And it's the expectation, that sense of, having a criteria. And here's a myth, I think, that could be debunked, is that we need to set a criteria, and then the person that we meet needs to be looked at as a check, check there, this, check, tall, dark, handsome, rich, available. And I'm not saying don't have a criteria for yourself. But what I'm saying is don't bring that criteria into the conversation, because sometimes the person that we meet is not what we anticipated at all. And for instance, like when I met my partner, John, he age-wise, geography-wise, all sorts of other criteria. If you'd said to me, this is going to be a match, I would have said, you're crazy. It's not going to work. And here we are 7 years later. So just my suggestion is to bring in that sense of playfulness into any meeting that you have with someone new, and let them see the joy in you. Now, one of the things as a mindset wellness coach that I understand fully is that we can't step into that authenticity unless we trust ourselves. And so at the beginning of the show, I talked a little bit about self-trust and the importance of self-trust being the root of a good relationship, because if you can't trust yourself, you can't trust others. And the way we learn to trust ourselves is one step at a time, being present in a relationship. And one of the myths I'd like to debunk as well is that sense of you have to be funny, you have to be, the comedian, you have to lead the conversation, you have to be an interesting person, or that negative self-talk that says you're not interesting enough, you're not somebody who's attractive. And I love to work with, especially women, to dial down the negative self-talk, dial down those conversations in your head that talk about what you aren't, not enough of, or that this won't work for you, or because those voices that you hear, we call them saboteurs. And there are actually 10 of them. And so at any point in time, one of the 10 saboteurs can be hijacking you and convincing you that you're not good enough to have a conversation with someone that you find attractive, or that you won't be attractive to them. And so I invite you to be present in the moment. Allow yourself and trust yourself to step into that present moment. And if you need some help with that, I'm happy to share with you some exercises and activities that you can do to help yourself become present in the moment. And it looks like at this point that we're having a little bit of trouble to reconnect. And so I'm going to say we'll be back right after this commercial, and hopefully we can reconnect with Barb and she can talk about some more ways to debunk the myths of dating after 40. We'll be right back.
Mental fitness, the missing X factor for enhancing performance, achievement, and success. Mental fitness empowers you with the magic of 3: stabilized mood, peace of mind, deeper relationships. Time to make it happen? Grow the self-command muscle. Intercept your self-defenses. Build your inner wisdom. In less than 15 minutes a day, gain the missing X factor. Let me show you how.
There comes a time we wonder, what's next? For women like us, as we stand at the edge of fulfillment, are you feeling unsettled, restless, not quite right? That's midlife awakening. Are you looking for fulfillment? Or to squeeze more juice out of life? Midlife awakening at the edge of fulfillment, don't miss it. We understand. By phone or laptop, wherever you are, come join us. Friday 10 a.m. Eastern Time, on Head Heart Synergy Facebook business page, or here, on the Women for Women Network Radio and Talk 4 TV.
So we're back with Barb. Oh, it's so good to see you back, Barb.
Technical difficulty. So sorry about that. Where were we?
That's okay. We were talking about debunking the myths of dating after 40. And I just finished telling a bit of a story about my experience of meeting John online. And I'm wondering, do you have either a myth that you'd like to debunk for our listeners, or do you have some advice about online dating? Or perhaps it's both.
Okay, well, why don't I have a myth that I want to debunk about online dating? We'll wrap it all up into one.
Awesome. Okay.
All right, online dating. For people coming back into the dating world over 40, people get really stressed out about, oh, what's different, what's new, what's different. I don't know where to begin, especially with this whole technology thing. So myth number one that I want to debunk right off the top is, if you're over 40, for the most part, dating is the same because we're dealing with other human beings, right? We're dealing with other human beings. So just let that myth go, in that you think it's completely different. Yes, there are some new technologies out there like online dating. So question is, do you even want to do it? You know, people say, I have to be online. I have to be online. No, you don't. The bottom line is, what is it that you're comfortable with? If you feel like, hey, you know, the advantages of online dating is, number one, you have a bigger geographic reach of the type of people that you'd be able to meet. Number two, you could sit at home in the evening in your jammies and your fuzzy bunny slippers and, you know, have a beverage and go online, and there's a world of other people online as well. So there is an ease and a convenience around online dating. Do you need to do it? No, there's lots of people that I work with that say, I would rather just meet people organically the old-fashioned way. Wonderful. The first piece is to really get clear about what you're comfortable with. So is online dating, can people find a wonderful other potential mate online? Absolutely. You know, here's another myth. There's no good people online. You know, not true. Not true. I would say about 50% of my clients that I work with have found long-term, loving, supportive, healthy relationships with people they have met online.
Yeah, John just said, like, the scientific method to dating, like an old 2007 NBC TV show. Yeah, and while you were trying to log back in, I told listeners and viewers my story, two stories actually. One of having a relationship with someone who didn't exist online, which is something we have to be careful of. But the other is meeting John 7 years ago. And he was completely out of my geographic area. If it weren't for online dating, we would never have had an opportunity to connect. And so there's
Absolutely.
pros and cons, but I love your advice about do what you're comfortable doing and don't feel that you have to do online dating in order to find someone.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, dating is stressful enough. So the first piece is really getting clear on what you're comfortable with and starting there.
Yeah, we talked a little bit as well of while you were coming on about self-trust and showing up playfully and authentically. So can you talk a little bit more about the myths around that, like and how we need to show up in terms of in when we meet someone, because sometimes people have not dated since they were yay high.
Absolutely. So a lot of the times we think, number one, we need to be perfect. Myth right there. I challenge you to find another perfect human being. Does not exist. So we put a lot of pressure on ourselves that we have to look a certain way and speak a certain way and talk about this and then we end up putting on this mask of who we think the other person wants us to be. Number one, it's exhausting. Number two, it's inauthentic. And number three, eventually you're going to get busted, right? If you're trying to be somebody you're not, even if you can keep that up for a month, 2 months, 6 months, eventually it's just going to get too exhausting. And you're like, I hate doing that. But I thought you loved it. Well, I only did it because you were like, right?
Yeah, and we've all had that feeling too when you've been with somebody for a while and they have not been authentic. It's like they're two-dimensional almost. It's that sense of, something not quite right. And what a letdown too, if you've started dating somebody who you think is interested in all the things that you're interested in, and only to find out that a few weeks or months later that they're really not.
Yeah. I mean, really. All right, here's another myth that I want to bust right off the top. When people say, okay, I'm ready to get back into the dating world, so I should just start online, or I should go to an event, or I should do all these things externally. So the myth is that, in my opinion, is kind of like step 3. So really, the first step when you're deciding I want to get back online or back into dating, or I've been dating for a while and it's just not working, I'm attracting the wrong type of people, I'm being inauthentic, this is exhausting. The first step, number one, always starts with you. It always is about having clarity, number one, about who you are, number two, about who you want to attract. Because when you get that clarity right off the hop, it's the equivalent of deciding I want to go buy a car, right? And you're like, well, what kind of a car do I want? Well, I want it to have some wheels and a steering wheel would be good. And I want it red, right? It's like,
or I think I want red, but I might like blue.
Like, good luck with that. Once you get, okay, I want a BMW silver, then you start actually, when you're looking around, seeing all these BMWs around, you're like, oh, look at that. Oh, I didn't recognize that one before. Oh, I hadn't seen that before. So once you get that clarity about who you want to attract and who you are, what are your non-negotiables, really important right up front to understand what your non-negotiables are, because once you meet somebody and those cocktails of hormones start kicking in, your non-negotiables go out the window sometimes. And if for instance, you really love doing something. So I'll give you an example. I really love photography. So what would I do if I was looking to find somebody? I'd say, what do I really love doing? I love photography. And there's this, I don't know if people know about this worldwide organization called Meetup. So it's meetup.com.
Oh, yeah.
And you can type in, photography groups in your city. And typically there'll be like, I know in the city where I live, there's like 20 meetup groups that I could go to, and they're all talking about photography. So what does that accomplish? Number one, I'm going to go do something I love. Number two, I'm totally authentic about, I'm going to go do something I love. Number three, the people that are there, guess what? They're doing what they love. So immediately we have something in common, right? And I'm being completely genuine. And when you are doing something you love, you are just so much more attractive and magnetic because you're in your zone doing what you love.
And you're not meeting the person with like a checklist criteria. He's, 5 foot, I don't know, 5'10". He's got brown eyes. He's got, like, you're not meeting somebody, connecting with them with that shopping list, which is terribly uncomfortable. But what you're suggesting is do the things that you love and then connect with people who also love that. And so you have naturally something to talk about, something to connect with them on. I love that, Barb. And so meetup.com, you're suggesting, is a good place for our viewers and listeners to check out. Is there anything else? Angeline says she belongs to a couple of different networking groups. Awesome.
Oh.
So if you've got some networking groups that you'd like to suggest for our viewers and listeners, go ahead and put them in the chat. Or Barb, if you've got some others to suggest where people can start so that they can have some authentic conversations.
You know what? I don't have any specific ones. I know Meetup is really great because it has such a broad range of all the different types of groups on there. I would just start first with what do you love? And then Google, okay, places in my area that, like, I love live music. So I'd be like, okay, where do they have live music? So I do, my city, live music. And then I would see specific places in my city of where I could go to enjoy myself. And there'll be people that are also enjoying themselves. And it happens to be, if it's singles night, okay, that's even more targeted. You see how we're kind of whittling it down? So,
yeah. Oh, Rachel says she met an amazing fellow on Match.com. So I mean, I guess what I'm hearing is that do the things that you love to do, be the places, be authentically you, and attract others who are authentically them.
exactly.
Whether you're in the online world or not.
And actually, Match, thanks for mentioning that, Rachel. Match has live events in your city. Actually, in my city, I actually do live events for Match.com. So there specifically, I've done euchre nights, I've done workshops, just getting ready to do a pool night. So fun things you can do with other singles, specifically about what you love.
Awesome. And because we're running out of time, I'm going to give our listeners and viewers the last few words. And so we had the word curious, but we've also had the word myth and conversation. So now you've had all 5 words, and I invite you to put those 5 words in the chat. So to review them, we've had dating, curious, myth, body language, and conversation. And if you want for bonus marks, throw in the word online in there as well, because we've talked a lot about online dating. So Barb, we've only got a few seconds left of our show, but thank you so much. And how can people connect with you? What's the best way for people to connect?
Specifically, if they have any questions, that they can email me at barbara@flirtfactor.ca, barbara@flirtfactor.ca. And of course, my website is flirtfactor.ca.
Awesome. And so do you have one, perhaps a gift that you'd like to offer them at the end of this show so that they can connect with you? Because I know that you give some beautiful gifts. So go ahead.
So my gift to your listeners is if they're starting to get back into the online dating world, or they already are on some site, but they're not having the success that they were hoping for, my gift is if they want to email me at barbara@flirtfactor.ca and send me their current profile. So screenshot of their profile and their photos. We'll set up a one-on-one conversation, and I will give you a profile assessment, give you a couple of tips of what you can do so you start attracting better matches.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Barb. And I want to thank you for being here. And I want to thank all of our listeners. And remember that if you are at the edge of fulfillment, there is a choice. You can stay on the edge, always getting what you've always got, or you can become just slightly courageous and move beyond the edge to get what you really want, even in the world of online dating. So thanks so much. We'll see you again next week.